Hi and welcome to another episode of eCommerce One. And today's guest is Tia Roqaa. That is the founder at Roccabox, which is an independent UK beauty subscription business. How are you doing, Tia?
Fabulous, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So Tia was just telling me she's just literally come back in from an all-inclusive few days away. How lucky are you, eh?
Oh, I know, yeah, but I need another holiday now to get over a bit of a detox.
Yeah. It's that time of year, I think. It's like, it's all crazy, isn't it? In the business world, seems to be. And I think trying to get a few days off now is a good idea if we can. I think my kids are back off school in a couple of weeks. So I can't wait to get a few days away, hopefully then. So not long, countdown. So maybe kick off with giving us a bit of background and what sort of motivation behind Roccabox and what is Roccabox?
Okay, so back when it was about 5 years ago. In fact, yeah, it was nearly 5 years ago, I think. I was working in PR for a beauty brand. And I, at the same time, was, in my early 20s. I used to go around beauty counters myself, not really knowing what I was buying or what I was doing with beauty products. And I'd end up going to the counter at Boots or Harvey Nichols, and I'd be talked into buying something like a whole range of makeup or, skincare or whatever. And I'd get home and be like, this is just not what I was set out to get. It's either wrong for my skin or, I'd been upsold things. And I don't know, I just found that going out and shopping like that didn't really work for me personally. On the flip side of that, I was working in PR, as I mentioned, but looking to reach a new audience in a different way. So I just thought, well, what would I like to do? And I wanted to try sampling things in the comfort of my own home. And then that's how Roccabox was born. So we essentially send out a box of beauty products every month and send people on a bit of a journey of beauty discovery, to be honest. So the idea is you get a mixture of hair care, skincare, makeup, accessories, beauty accessories, and for a really affordable amount of £10 a month plus postage.
Yeah.
So so it was just, it's been going, well, we launched 4 years ago. I started doing the groundwork a lot before that. And I've never really looked back. I think everyone loves it.
So quite a few years in the making. Obviously came from a real need that you spotted as a lady that goes to buy, a woman that goes to buy their makeup. You sort of thought, do you know what? Well, I can do that better, or I can fill a gap in a market and really help people with their sort of makeup. So one thing I'm really intrigued about and really keen to dive into is a subscription-based pricing model. That's something I'm very passionate about myself, but sort of what was your thought process behind the subscription model and how's that working? And what would you say to people that are thinking about maybe doing a subscription model or already are doing a subscription model and how they can maybe improve theirs?
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say that I'm an expert, but I did do a lot of thinking into this before I started it, and I thought, what's that sort of what's the word? Thingy, to that tipping point of being able to come out of your bank account every month and you not really care that much about it, and then at what point does it get to the point where you do care about it, and if you're looking to cut back, you cancel it. So for example, Netflix, I mean, in fact, I've cancelled my Netflix because I use my dad's account. Everyone uses someone else's account. I don't know,
Can you send me his password?
Yeah, I'll send it out after this. The people that pay for it are the unlucky ones because everyone else is just using theirs, aren't they? But unfortunately, you can't do that with Roccabox. But yes, I wanted to just get that sort of sweet spot of not being cheap enough to not care too much about it and not being too expensive, but still being able to make a bit of a margin.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, it's £10 plus postage. So the direct debit that comes out of your account every month is £13.95, which, I mean, where I live is the price of like a couple of drinks. It's not not a huge amount, and the value that's inside of these boxes is always far greater. So say for example, you paid your £10 for the box, but they're quite often worth £50, £60, £70. I mean, in December, we've got a product in there that's worth £98 and people are paying £10 for it. So it's really, you really do get your value for money. And so it just needed to be accessible. But I was always of the mindset that it needed to be a low margin, high volume product. So, you know, as you can imagine, there's all sorts of elements that go into it. There's obviously, we do pay a small amount for some of the products. Some of them are gifted to us for marketing purposes. They'll come out of the brand's marketing budgets. But at the same time, we do more than just send the products out. We've got a big platform. We've got, you know, however many thousand email subscribers and social followers. So it's a whole package that we offer to them. So depending on what they're offering to us product wise will depend on what sort of a package we can offer to them.
So you've got like two sides to it. You've got brands, manufacturers that are in some instances giving you product, you know, as part of their millions of pounds marketing budget or whatever it may be. A bit like, you know, when I used to work in the IT business, you know, and you would get product to give away, you would get incentives, marketing budget if you did X, Y, Z. So different brands are working with you to give you, you know, maybe hundreds of the new. I'm not that familiar with ladies' apologies, but I should be by now. I've had a couple of ladies on that have got huge beauty brands. So, and obviously you're buying
face cream or something like that.
But it works both ways, doesn't it? Your subscribers, the ladies that are subscribing, mainly ladies, I guess. Not all ladies, I'm sure. But they're subscribing, getting huge value. They're getting like 100 quid's worth of stuff every now and then, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a two-pronged approach. And, you know, say for example, as well, you know, we might work with a brand that maybe isn't necessarily within beauty, but they want to get in front of our audience. It might be a drinks company or you know, chocolate or something like that. And then they'll pay for our services to get in front of our audience. You know, it goes so far beyond that as well. You know, we do competitions and things. However, it is quite annoying and makes my life very difficult, not just me and all of the team, be having to get those products each month, because the amount of organisation that goes into it, you know, getting the products into our warehouse, packed into the boxes and sent out every month, it's a huge operation, especially when you're doing, you know, tens of thousands a month. It was fine when we first started it, and it was, you know, a couple of hundred, and I used a social enterprise to pack the boxes at that point, and they could cope, but I quite quickly outgrew that. So I would say to anyone that's looking at doing a subscription-based business, do it with a service, not a product. You'll make your life so much easier. And then and also anything service-based is, you know, it's pure profit. Once you've actually paid for, I don't know, whatever it is, let's say it's the app or Netflix, they pay the royalties or whatever it is, you know, once you've paid for those and your overheads are covered, then you've got all your profit sorted. So that would be
got that fulfillment, have you, that warehousing, that sort of logistics element.
Exactly.
Seems to be a huge uprise or sort of uplift, should I say, in that subscription business. I know my wife, for example, we seem to be getting gin delivered to the door every like 4 days. I think it seems like at the moment. I'm not complaining, but I need to check the bank statement, I think. So on the subscription, is there any sort of I think obviously listening to the podcast, we've got a lot of different businesses that will be. I know we've got, you know, people on the podcast that will be shipping out thousands of orders a day. You're saying there about partnering with brands. I think, you know, a good takeaway there for the guys that are listening is, you know, that maybe, you know, every order they're packing and shipping, they could add in, you know, maybe details of other partner brands and tying in with those brands, and in return, obviously getting maybe marketing budgets. You know, if you can get our brand in front of 10,000 of your customers, we'll give you X amount of money or product, or, you know, so I think there's you know, even though you might not have a subscription business, you can maybe help to promote another subscription business, or bolt on to an existing business as a subscription business. You know, my businesses are all subscription businesses, and for me, I think it's like the holy grail, to be honest, of business. I'm a massive fan of subscriptions. So Black Friday, is that something that you guys get involved with? Do you do specific promotions around Black Friday? Are you gearing up for some? What are you gearing up for at the moment?
So Black Friday, historically, Bearing in mind, as I say, we're a low margin product, so it's difficult to give a big discount. However, I've always used it as a bit of an opportunity to just generate some like a bit of cash flow. So so I might do a 50% off, but a 50% off a 12-month subscription. So that means we get like a big chunk of cash to work with if we maybe need it for those coming months. And so that's what I've done historically. We're now bigger. I've got a marketing team and a lot of more people that are helping me run the business and make my life easier, thankfully. And this year we're looking at actually just we are going to offer a percentage off our annual subscriptions. It'll be less of a percentage. But we're also going to do a special like limited edition box. So we're going to like curate a Black Friday box, and it'll be as high value as possible for as cheap as possible. So
it'll be probably more than the normal value, more than a normal £10, but it'll be like £500 worth of product for £60 or something.
Well, yeah, exactly. It'll be something along, maybe not even that. It's probably more likely to be, £150 worth of product, and we'll sell it it'll be a limited edition box. It will sell for £20, and then we might send around a discount code to give them 50% off or something like that. So yeah, we are just working on it at the moment, but what we're working on isn't necessarily the offer. It's getting the products in and offering those.
Getting the deals sort of thing. Yeah. So obviously you're saying, you started off with, the idea, then you get, so many dozens of boxes, hundreds of boxes, and then you get to where you are today, sort of 4 or 5 years in. What's some advice you would give to guys listening in about how you've acquired customers, so which sort of different marketing channels have worked for you or are working for you at the moment?
I feel like I've tried I feel like I've tried everything. And don't get me wrong, as much as I've won a lot of customers, I've lost a lot of customers as well. So I think that it's retaining the customers. Obviously, that's a huge thing. But winning the customers, we do a lot of sort of partnerships, reciprocal activity with other brands or other platforms. So we might do a limited edition box that's with a media partner, for example, and they'll send it out to their media, their demographic. We also, in my first 12 months, my business model was very, very different. So I knew that on that first box, I was going to go to you at L'Oreal and say, can I have 200 units for free? So that I can send them out to my subscribers. And I knew they were going to turn around and be like, well, first of all, who are you? Second of all, why would we do that? You haven't already got a database. I did actually build up a database before I launched, so that gave me an idea of how to know how many boxes I might need. So anyway, I decided that for that first year, I would be an influencer curated box. So I got a list of influencers and I approached them and said, how do you want to do you want to have your own beauty box? Tell us all your favorite brands and we'll put together a box list of all your favorite products. And then you promote it, we promote it. And then the brands are happy because they're promoted by the influencer and they get in front of a new audience. And we sort of, that's how we did it. So that was actually the full business model.
So you're partnering with a brand and an influencer. That's what we're saying? It's like
so we've partnered with the influencer, and so they would give me a list of, let's say, 20 different brands, and we would put 5 different brands in there from that list. And so they would do it in that way. So that just gave us a bit of kudos as a new business. It gave us the kudos from the brands to want to work with us. We then did a good job. And then the next year, we didn't necessarily need the influencers for various reasons. I wanted to maybe do my own sort of thing. It might have been difficult to work with influencers, not because of them necessarily, but, sometimes at the beginning, we might have needed to speak to 50 brands or 100 brands to be able to get a box together. So it didn't always work out so well. And as well, some influencers they have great followings, they have it looks like they've got a really good outreach, but actually they don't have the selling power that we needed for it to be worth it. So it was just, it was one of those really. So it was great for that first 12 months, but that's sort of how we got going.
Yeah, that was your. So are you doing anything with paid advertising now, or is it still very much focused with sort of the partnerships that you've grown? Or?
To be honest, we quadrupled in size during lockdown, and we were at the point where we actually couldn't keep up with our orders and we kept on selling out. So for the last 6 months, we haven't been doing any paid ads at all. So we're sort of reintroducing those now. But again, we have a really small, I say, you know, let's do 500 quid this month. It's not a huge thing. And that's across all that's across Google and social. So I'm not going to proclaim that I'm any sort of expert in paid ads.
No, I mean, I think it's an interesting one because in the reality is you haven't had to, you know, which is great. It's great. Obviously, there'll be a time when you may go down that path or you may not. But
but even even before then, even before the lockdown and us not being able to get our hands on enough stock and selling out and stuff, we still then only really had a small budget of like a couple of hundred quid a month. It was never something that we really focused on. It was more, I wanted to be able to get as much out of organic partnerships as possible. So I'd rather channel all of our energies into doing that than paying and you maybe not necessarily getting it back. Bearing in mind, I know I keep referring back to it, but bearing in mind we've got a £10 product. How many people do we have to like? And if you're paying a cost per click and things like that, they have to then they have to stay signed on for a few months to be able to make it worth it and things like that. So that's why it's not really been a massive focus of ours historically. However, that doesn't mean that going forward that might not be the case.
I suppose that brings me on to my next question nicely, because obviously with a £10 product, you know, there's certain, you know, cost per sale, and you know, is how long does a client stay? You know, if a company stays for 3 months, that's obviously a £30 income. If they stay for 2 years, it's a big difference. So what are some of the strategies you've used to retain the customers, maybe upsell them, increase the values, or anything there you could give our listeners around retaining and upselling?
So we retain our customers by a few things, really. First of all, we want to make sure that we're consistently good or consistently great. You know, we always want to make sure we're delivering a good product, because that 1 month that comes in, and believe me, we've had plenty of them, that 1 month that happens where you deliver a really poor standard box or poor standard, you know, product, everyone goes, and then you've got to win them back, we'll try and win them back again. So it's so frustrating. But, you know, sometimes it happens. Sometimes things just don't work out right. And, you know, brands might drop out at the last minute and we're then scrabbling around.
Trying to find something to go in the box.
Exactly. So there's that. There's always sort of like keeping that standard. But as well, we have our social media and email marketing tactics in that we'll release a sneak peek of that next month before the end. We'll put our hero product out and then... Yeah, exactly. So it's a bit of a teaser, and it's like, this is what you'll get. And then I think from there, a lot of people will be like, do you know what, I'm not interested in that. Or they were going to subscribing anyway. Or if they weren't, then
or they're going to go, oh, do you know, we'll give it 1 more month. That looks good. I've seen that. That's 80 quid in the shop. We'll pay. Little teaser.
So that's sort of how that's the main way that we keep them on board, as well as like, obviously, like we try to have as great customer services as possible, and if anything does go wrong, we like to do everything with a bit of love, to be honest. That's our sort of big thing. We really care about our customers. But aside from that, about upselling, so we've got the £10 a month subscription, but now we've launched that every month, couple of months. We're looking to move to make it every month in the next year, but we'll do a limited edition box, and this limited edition will be a premium box, and that'll retail at £30. So we won't sell the volume of those that we do on a monthly basis. We'll launch a limited amount, and then once they're gone, they're gone. But those ones, we just did one a few weeks ago in collaboration with a media partner, and that sold out within 2 hours. It was a £30 box, and it sold out. I think the only reason it took 2 hours is because people couldn't get on, you know, the website was crashing and stuff.
Yeah, brilliant.
And then after that, like a few weeks after that, we did another one, which was worth this one, I can't remember the first one, the value, but the one we launched just on Friday, I don't know, a few days ago, was £25 and the value was £225.
Yeah.
So again, that sold out within a few hours and people really wanted it. So that's sort of upselling to our current customers and also just sort of getting that extra income.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think that'll resonate with a lot of people that are listening in, where you've got your traditional or your business, which is in your instance is £10 a month at the moment. But then we're like doing this launch maybe once a month or every other month, and that's where you're also getting that bigger, commercial. You're getting a bigger payday, but at the same respect, the brand's getting that uplift and potential to sell the £10 box. But if you're selling several hundred or whatever the numbers are of the 30-40 quid box, you're getting that. So you've got like this premium product in effect and premium payday. It's like a lot of the business listening, I think you've got your normal products, your normal SKUs where you might sell 50 quid average order value, but we've all got, I think, or a lot of people listening will have these orders that come through where somebody spends the 10 times or 5 times what you normally spend, but in a volume, which we're seeing a lot of at the moment, where a lot of clients that we've got, for example, as soon as Boris said, work from home again, there's like certain clients that we've got in certain industries where you need those products to work from home, IT or whatever it may, they're getting that additional payday again, whereas you're doing like this mini launch in effect every other month or whatever it may be, around Black Friday, about Christmas. So yeah, the guys listening in, you're thinking about those different revenue streams. Obviously, retention being a massive one with subscriptions. It's obviously if you're spending all your time trying to just win new business, you're missing a trick, is what you're saying, because you've got to retain. If you can't retain, you're just sort of on that hamster wheel of trying to survive potentially, where you're trying to go to that next level. So every now and then, like everyone's human. We maybe drop the ball on not doing the best service we want and lose a few. So you've got to make sure that you're always offering that really, really good service. So brilliant. Thank you. So you talked about partnerships. Obviously, they've been key, with influencers particularly. But can you give us any more tips on how you've secured some of the brands that you work with? So like Tropez, HUDA. What's some of the maybe secret tips or ways that you've secured these? Because I think, from my perspective, definitely some of the relationships we have within our agencies, they've been key, massive key to how well some of the things we're doing in our business. So what's some of the tips you would give around building relationships and partnerships?
So we always, so what we're trying to do now is when we work with a really well. We should do it with every brand, but obviously there are some brands that are more exciting than others. Some brands resonate with our audience more than others. We had one product in recently, and it was we do a customer feedback report, and when we did the feedback report, it was hated by like 99% of people, and they've just actually emailed this morning wanting to work with us again. I'm like, oh, well, we need to maybe do it with a totally different product and see if we can change people's opinion on it. That exercise was great for them as a brand, because they were like, hang on a minute, maybe people don't like this product. It's a really important thing. So we always, after a campaign, we'll do a feedback report and we'll ask our customers what they thought of it. So just after that, then picking up the phone and sort of speaking to the brands and going, right, this is what they love, this is what they didn't love. How can they use that to develop their either their brand or their products, depending on who they are as a business. So that's really helpful for them to sort of win to develop, and we just then book them in again for the campaign. So that's a really important thing, just sort of making sure that we've got the brand's best interest at heart, as well as the customer's best interest.
So obviously once you've got them on board, making sure that you're just working really closely and giving them the feedback. Is there anything you would say about getting them on board in the first place? If somebody's listening in and does nothing with big brands or reasonable sized brands and wants to get in front of those brands, wants to collaborate, partner with a brand, is there any specific sort of little tactic you would say?
Well, I think you've just got to be confident and have some balls, really. Like, it's one of those things where you've really just got to go for it. There's no point in going, oh God, they'll never want to work with me because we're not big enough or whatever. I remember within the first, I think I wasn't even three months old at this point, Creme de la Mer, which is and I think Estee Lauder own huge brand. They're in Boots, Harvey Nichols, Harrods, not Boots, Harrods. They're premium. They've got like makeup that they're super famous. And they contacted me wanting to do a brand exclusive box within 3 months. So I remember going down to London, having a meeting with them and sort of presenting my deck. And when I got there and presented it, they were like, "We didn't realise you were so young." Like, you, as in, not me, that the business was so young, but it was because I'd sort of really gone and I'd sold myself and sold them what we did, and they really loved it. But unfortunately, we weren't actually reaching a big enough audience at that point to make it, and we didn't have the logistics and things like that, so it didn't end up happening. But they still called me for the meeting, and it still happened. In terms of winning other other business, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
Just keep trying. So and as well, just doing your job really well will then get awareness. So say, for example, whenever we get some coverage, if we're listed in Grazia magazine, then you can guarantee the day that goes live, the phone will be ringing and it'll be all different brands wanting to work with us because we've been featured and we've got that coverage. So we would essentially be getting them the coverage as well. They were in our box. So getting featured in those magazines is super important as well. Sorry, go on.
Okay. So I think it's like a lot of things, not giving up, pushing. You're going to get maybe 20 no's before you get a yes, but one yes can change things massively, can't they? Same with the, we talk about the media titles that you've been in. You're saying that you're just about to say Grazia. I think Elle, Cosmopolitan, I've got on my notes here. Similar strategy, you would say then, sort of just keep pushing with these guys and obviously pushing the brand, elevating the brand, keep doing the social media and pushing everything out there, and you're going to get the attention.
Elevating as much as possible. The more places that you're seeing, the more brands that you're seen to be working with will always help. And I think that, I remember when we got HUDA. HUDA is like a super, for those that don't know, she's a really, really huge brand. She started off as an influencer and started her own brand. We worked with her, and funnily enough, I can't give any clues on how to work with them, but it was a complete coincidence that I emailed them, and then the person that emailed back was a girl that I used to go out with in my early party days, and she worked there, and so that sort of fixed that. So it was just a complete But then as soon as we launched that box with that product in, which sold out within days, all the other brands were emailing us wanting to work with us because of the association. They were like, well, if HUDA wants to work with them, then we do as well. So that was
literally just getting that first one is like then open. Oh, they're working with them and so on and so on. And just push till you get that first one or two or three, and then doors start to open. Like in a lot of businesses, isn't it? You get that one maybe direct relationship, and then you're using that and leveraging that. Well, we work with X, Y, Z. Oh, okay, yeah, and you start making a noise and start in those circles of those brands in that industry. So
I think, back to you getting coverage as well. So a lot of the coverage that we've had is beauty roundups and things like that. However, I think that anyone that doesn't have their own PR agency or anything like that, just think outside the box. Is there something that's relevant to your business that could be a good conversation piece or opinion piece? And if so, get it written down and send it across. Speak to the relevant press and say, do you know what? For example, at the moment, how are people being able to sample beauty products anywhere? The answer is they can't because of COVID. There's no testers anywhere. So it's either you buy something and take the risk, or you don't buy it, or you just stick to your old stuff. So I'm thinking, well, this must be a nightmare for brands, because if you're about to launch a new product, how's anyone going to know what it's like to buy it? It's going to be a massive punt. So that's beneficial for us, and it works both ways. It means that customers are going to be able to try a new product without committing to the full price of it, and brands are going to get in front of an audience and get people talking about it and build the hype. So, I've just sort of put together an opinion piece on that, which we've sent out last week, and we'll just sort of follow up with it this week and see who's going to publish it. But just things like that, think outside the box. How can you get magazines and publications to speak about you? you know, and without it just being like, we've sent out a new box today, you know, that's not exciting news, sadly. I wish it was, because then people would write about us every month. But you know, you've got to just think outside the box and think, what do people want to know about and what's interesting at the moment.
Huge opportunity, isn't it? I think what you're saying, you know, that amount of ladies that are used to going to the beauty counter and trying on this, or testing.
Yeah, again,
can't do it, can we?
I've had the same problem. You know, I was going on holiday. I needed to get some new foundation, which, as you know, for those that don't know, foundation's one that you put on your face and it's all different colours. So you can't just get any old colour. You know, there's loads of different choices. So how did I know which one to get? It was a complete and utter guess. The first one that I bought was the wrong colour, so that was 20 quid wasted. And the second one that I bought, luckily, was all right, but I went for the cheap option because I thought, I'm not wasting another 20 quid. So, you know, it's just...
Yeah, you're doing an invaluable service to the ladies and the brands out there, aren't you? Amazing, amazing. So obviously, a very fast-moving industry. You know, how do you keep on top of sort of industry, sort of what's happening in the industry? Have you got any sort of go-to sort of ways that you keep on top of everything?
To be honest, Instagram is the future. That really is. It's such a huge platform. And then back to when I, you know, started the business. That's how I started it. I started it by posting pictures on Instagram and getting people's interest on there. And then when they liked our page and things like that, I directed them to our website. That's how I then got their email addresses. And that's how I could then approach them when we'd launch. So very similarly, you know, because of the business that we've got, we're all on it. Me, all the team, we're constantly screenshotting. We'll look, not only are we screenshotting the, you know, what's going on in the industry in terms of new launches, is it an influencer that they've got a new product, or what's the influencer talking about? What's the what are our competitors doing? So literally, there's no need, you know, these sort of industry magazines, really, there's not, and even just normal magazines, to be honest, you don't massively need those anymore, because it's all on Instagram. It's
just live on, it's still playing out on social.
Exactly. I mean, obviously, as well, we do have an industry sort of, it's like a database sort of thing. So it's got all the industry contacts on there, but it also has news. So whether a brand's launched a new product or somebody started a new job at a certain place, it's called Diary Directory, and it's specifically for fashion, beauty, and those sorts of things. And it's one of those that any sort of brand should either be listed on it or have access to it. So that's just, and they send like a bulletin every day with all that information on. So that's sort of something that you skim over, but the likelihood is you've probably already found it out by
but they're usually late to the party, because your team and yourself are already all over the industry, sort of the key influencer style Instagram pages and the different brands and the different sort of where people hang out, I guess. So anything you would say on TikTok? How are you using that, or are you using that, or are you planning on using that more? Or
I do feel that I want to say I feel like I'm a bit old for TikTok. I haven't really quite got my head around it in terms of on a brand's point of view. Some of the I did get, my sister's a bit of a, you know, she's a lot younger than me, and she's sort of all over this and that sort of thing. And one of the girls that works for us, she's also, you know, in her early 20s, and she's sort of down with it. So they've done a few videos for us and posted them. But to be honest, it is something that we do need to be focusing on and looking at. But I really just can't get my head around it.
So it's maybe one for the future, and it's on the radar, but it's not front and center yet.
Well, you know what, I say that, but like I remember when Instagram started, I thought, what's the point in this? I really didn't get it. I was like,
me and you both.
Just those pictures. But now I don't really use Facebook like I used to. I just really go on Instagram, and so, you know, you never know, I might get my head around TikTok and forget about Instagram one day.
We'll maybe do part 2 of this interview in 12 months and see what your thoughts are then. You'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So you're about 4 or 5 years into the sort of actual business, but obviously been in the industry and PR and for quite some time. What advice would you give yourself looking back? Sort of what advice would you give yourself, or what bit of advice would you give yourself, should I say, if you were to go back 5 years now? Is there any sort of things that you've learned?
Bit of a tough one, that actually, because I wouldn't have got here where I am now if I hadn't have had those 5 years, and I couldn't really put them in a nutshell because, sorry, excuse me. There is one thing actually that I'll say is, don't get blindsided by listening to other people that think they know better. Now, there's a reason behind that. And I once went for investment because I thought I needed investment, and I need to get a new website. I want to get this and that and all this stuff. So I pitched to somebody and said all these things that I thought that I needed. In fact, no, not I thought. I knew that these are the things that I needed. This person came back to me and counter-pitched to me what they thought that I needed. And they were in a completely different industry. They basically have call centers, and like there's no relevance. It's a man as well, like no offense to the men, but a man, no experience in my industry whatsoever, completely different. So he sort of like counter pitched me and said, I will give you that money, but this is what we should do with it. So I was like, great, how are we going to get this? I'm going to get all this money, and it's going to propel me, and I'm going to, the business is going to be huge, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So they wanted a small percentage of the business, fine. And so we did it. Anyway, I couldn't tell you how far into the business journey I was at that point, but I was obviously still very naive. And I actually was on the slope. We were on an upwards slope, and we were really getting somewhere. And as soon as this person came on board, and suddenly we were going down, and we were going down very quickly, and it got to the point where I was like, I'm not going to have a business here, because I suddenly was doing really well, and then we weren't, and it was because of all these things that this other person had implemented, and they just didn't work. And and not just that, in terms of the website, the reason that I felt like I needed a new website was I built the website myself from scratch. I don't have any background in it, but to be honest, I used to get so many brands coming to me and going, "Who built your website? It's amazing." Wow. And And so this person then, they wanted me to then use one of their friends who was a web developer. They changed platforms, which then meant that I didn't know how to manage the website myself. So I lost complete control of that. And it was just an absolute nightmare. I honestly, it was awful. And so
the advice being be careful who you take advice from, be careful who you take investment from, and what that investment also, obviously money's one thing, but then if they are then swaying things with no experience in that industry, I think that's a great bit of advice from you about getting advice. It's who do you listen to? Just because someone's maybe 10, 20 years older and unloaded doesn't mean they know that know your industry or know the journey you're on, and so I think that's a great bit of advice. I would completely endorse that myself. People are so easy to have read a book or whatever and go, no, I'm a business coach. Okay, really? Yeah, so what have you done in your business? Really question who you're taking the advice from.
Exactly. That's the thing. You really need to question and just be like, right, okay, well, what sort of insight into my industry and what I do you have? Because, not all businesses are the same. Yeah. So, there might be some people that are listening to this that have got no relevance to this. This might be absolutely useless to some people, but great to some others. But just for clarity, I turned the business around, obviously, when I thought it was I turned it around. I had to then pack the boxes myself. I had a logistics company, had to get rid of them because I couldn't afford to pay them. Suddenly I was then packing 800 boxes myself while trying to run the business. It was a complete nightmare, and this was a few years ago now. I then got rid of the investor, got all the 100% of my business back, and since then we've literally done nothing but get better and better. It was a huge learning curve, and but at the same time, so it was a huge mistake, but at the same time it was a huge learning curve.
Again, these things are going to come and go, aren't they? But it doesn't sort of doesn't define the business moving forward. Okay, we're learning, you're learning.
And about like making mistakes and stuff. So many times I've made mistakes, and I'm like, I get really, really annoyed. And it's so easy to make a really big mistake, and it be, you know, it could be a financial mistake or anything. And I just say, I always have to drill into myself and say that was not a mistake. It was a lesson. I might have paid for that lesson. You know,
yeah, cost you a few grand, but it's it's a lesson.
Equivalent to a university degree kind of lesson, but which I didn't go to. But I always just think that wasn't a mistake. It was a lesson, and I'm gonna, you know, learn from it, and I'm gonna move on. Because if you get weighed down by these sorts of, with any mistakes, then they can hinder you and stop you from moving forward. But no one's got to where they are without making any mistakes.
100%. I think that's a brilliant sort of coming to the end of the episode. I think that's a really that really resonates with me, and I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of listeners. You know, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to want some help and support, but just be a little bit careful who you take that advice from. So, final question, Tia. I always like to finish every episode with a book recommendation. Do you have a book that you'd recommend to our listeners?
I feel like quite a few people might have said this, but I read a few years ago The 4-Hour Workweek.
Okay, yeah, Tim Ferriss.
And it's just something that, so my staff, for example, none of my staff actually work full time. Everyone works, 3 days a week, because I actually think that me myself, I know that I can do a full day's work in condensed hours and do a really good job. That doesn't mean that when I started, I wasn't working every hour under the sun, but I know that I am more productive with a smaller, set working hours, and with set hours that work for me. But there's loads more to that book about sort of outsourcing, which is a lot of what I've done since day one is outsource its element of the business. But I really, really do recommend it, because it's all about just working smarter, not harder. And I think that there's a lot of things that people could take away from that book.
Fantastic. So 4-Hour Workweek, Tim Ferriss. We'll link that up in the show notes. So if the guys that are listening, they want to find out more about yourself, more about the brand, what's the best place to connect with you, Tia?
So the brand is Roccabox UK on Instagram, but you can find me on LinkedIn personally, Tia Roqaa, which is Roqaa. And
the website is ROCC.
Yeah, and Roccabox is ROCCABOX.co.uk.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for being on eCom at 1. I look forward to, I think, catching up again in 12 months, and we'll have an update.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. Bye.